sometimes I feel small, right?
Mm.
And I want to advocate for students who maybe sometimes feel like that they
Mhm.
are small in comparison to their professors.
Mhm.
But if you're talking to somebody and you're building a relationship with them,
Yes.
they may get to like you.
Yes.
They may think that you're bright. They may think that you have a spark, or they may see themselves in you, and that could translate into opportunities.
This is UMBC Careers Unleashed, where we unleash stories, insights, and expertise to support you on your career journey. Let's dive in.
What's up, Retrievers? We are back with another episode of your favorite podcast, UMBC Careers Unleashed. And today we have got a treat for you. This episode is going to be one of those higher education starter pack episodes. We are going to be getting into some essential information. And so without further ado, I want to introduce our very special guest, Dr. Monique Ransom. Now, Dr. Ransom.
Yes.
Monique, if you will.
Okay.
Okay. What would you prefer to be called?
Dr. Ransom.
Doctor, yes. I'm going to put some respect on that name, Dr. Ransom. Okay. I don't want to mess it up. I want you to tell me the name of your department and then your title.
My title, Associate Director for Academic Advisor Development and Student Transition Programs. And that's in the office for academic and pre-professional advising.
Got it. I hear that. And so today we are going to unpack how academics and doing well in the classroom kind of is like the runway. It is that transition between, higher education and then postgraduate, right? Like, so whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're going to grad school or if you're going straight into the workforce or whatever the case may be. So I think you are kind of like the beginning and the lead of the runway. Okay. And then I think like maybe when folks are getting ready to do that takeoff point, that that's how they transition into the career center. So that's why I kind of wanted to invite you, because there is a connection. And I think really and you can go with me on this one, that there's this commentary now that like higher education is unnecessary. You could just go straight into the workforce. And so I want us to kind of like demystify that a little bit today around like how those two things are connected.
Absolutely.
Okay. But before we get into that, I want to start with you. Okay. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like take us back to undergrad Monique at that time, right? But now Dr. Ransom.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your academic journey.
Absolutely. So thinking about who Monique was in undergrad, I was very, very shy. So I entered into college as a first generation, what we call a first generation student, meaning that neither of my parents earned a bachelor's degree. But I also think of first gen in terms of being first generation American. So with my parents being from the Caribbean, Trinidad and Jamaica. And so I entered into higher education, into college, just being very new. Didn't really have anyone to give me any context or insight on what to expect. And to add another layer onto that, went to the University of Central Florida, which is a large school. So being one of 60,000 on the college campus. And so when I went into undergrad, I had to explore quite a bit. What is it that I wanted to do? Went into UCF. So for the just to shorten it, University of Central Florida. Went to UCF initially thinking that I wanted to do legal studies. Was thinking about being a lawyer. Coming from a family where certain professions, certain disciplines were encouraged, and so legal studies was definitely along that pathway. And then my mind just began to change as I began to take more classes. And so thought about accounting for a while. And then I came face to face with calculus and said, I think that's a really good gift that someone else has to come with. But however, that's not my strength.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came across Psych 100, Introduction to Psychology, I
Mm-hmm.
became intrigued by that discipline, and that's
Okay.
where I landed. That's where I landed in psychology. Had to have some conversations with my family, but
Mm-hmm.
at the ending of it, they were very supportive. But not only did I have to figure out what my academic discipline was in terms of where I thought I belonged, I also needed to work on my sense of belonging at the campus.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started at UCF through a summer bridge program.
Mm.
And so that really helped that large campus to feel smaller and really began to establish my own sense of community amongst the students in the program as well as the administrators. And that's who I hung on to for
Mm-hmm.
those 4 years that I was at
Okay.
UCF.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the perfect setup.
Mm-hmm.
So here on the pod, that's what we
Mm-hmm.
call it over here. Here on the pod, we have a little segment that we call the career controversy. So my question to you is, are gen eds a waste of time?
Ooh, that's a good one. And I'm glad we're starting there. So the short answer to it is no.
Huh.
It's not a waste of time. And the reason why it's not a waste of time, it's certainly a requirement that all students have to do as a part of their undergraduate degree. You cannot get a bachelor's degree without completing your gen eds.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I think it's purposive is because it really does, that's where that exposure does come in.
Mm-hmm.
You might have came in thinking that you're interested in one particular thing, as in my case.
Mm-hmm.
I was interested in legal studies. And
Mm-hmm.
since, like many schools, there was a social science requirement that I had to complete, and I
Mm-hmm.
chose psychology as that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't honestly say that if I didn't have to choose a class to satisfy that requirement, that I would have came across psychology, because that was not something that was talked about in my household.
Mm-hmm.
And so Gen Eds is a really great opportunity for students to really explore academics, other areas, other academic disciplines, to really expose them to different areas of interest.
Mm-hmm.
Because when entering college, depending on where you are, but especially if you're coming in at what we call the traditional age, 17, 18 years old,
Mm-hmm.
there's not a lot that you may know that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And so you may think you have an interest based on whether it's a favorite TV show or whether it's based on family influence. But when you take Gen Eds, it kind of positions you to take a history class that you probably would not have thought about taking.
Mm-hmm.
A language course at UMBC, our
Mm-hmm.
students are required to take a language course, but it just makes you think more broadly about academics. And for some students, it helps to either confirm their interest in what they really think that they're interested in. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a waste of time. And it's something that, as an academic advisor, is something that we oftentimes have to spend time explaining to
Mm-hmm.
students, because if you're coming in to do engineering, then why do I have to take this history
Mm-hmm.
class?
Yes.
And not only do we explain that to students, but we also explain it to parents as well, who may
Mm-hmm.
not understand the not only the importance but the necessity of this kind of diverse part of the undergraduate experience.
Well, you shut that controversy right down. Okay. It does not sound like it is controversial at all. It's like, no, they're necessary. And let me tell you
That is
why.
right.
Yes. And I hear that, and I wanna insert just a little bit in there, right? Because there was some discussion and I was wondering what question I was gonna ask, right? I was between two controversies for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I shared it with some students.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as this question rolled off of my lips, both of them were like, "Oh yeah, oh no, they're not. No, 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 they're not. We don't." And I think that if I was going to speak on their behalf,
Mm-hmm.
just for the person who's behind the camera, maybe watching this,
Mm-hmm.
they were saying that maybe we were talking about being well-rounded, right, and
Mm-hmm.
exposure to other things, but they were saying, like, say for example, if you are that engineering major, maybe that there was a specific like say for example, social science course that
Mm-hmm.
engineering majors have to take,
Right.
as opposed to the same generic one that everyone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that it kind of makes more sense
Mm-hmm.
in their context,
Right.
as opposed to them feeling like they're just there to check a box.
Mm-hmm.
And then they may even get more from it. So I think that was one of the things that they were saying. And I think also, just in some cases, they were feeling like that some courses were just like, if I'm an artist,
Mm-hmm.
what is this biology going to do for me?
Right.
Um, and so, I'm just speaking out. I'm not saying what my position is. I think I'm a little bit more on your side of
Mm-hmm.
things. But I do want to acknowledge
Yeah.
that there are some folks who are like,
Yes.
listen, I have always wanted to be.
Yes.
Like, oh, this is reminding me of a line. This is something you don't know about me. Everything reminds me either of a movie or a song lyric.
Okay.
And right now, I am hearing Dolores Van Cartier
All
visiting me
right.
from Sister Act 2.
All right.
And she said, I am not, nor have I ever been,
Uh-huh.
a Las Vegas showgirl.
That's it.
I
Uh-huh.
am a headliner.
That's it.
And some people come to school like that.
They do.
And
They
for those
do.
folks, they may feel, but still check that little box.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes students feel like visiting their academic advisor is just about like selecting classes.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell me from your vantage point, like outside of just like, okay, it's next semester,
Mm-hmm.
you took this class, you passed it, this is the next class.
Mm-hmm.
Like what outside of selecting classes, how can your academic advisor kind of benefit you?
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits. And how I kind of think of myself as an academic advisor, I think of myself as a bridge between the student and the campus.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is there's a lot that students may know of that happens here at the university or the resources that are here at their disposal,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe they don't know specifically where it is or how to find it. And
Mhm.
so when students just limit, and even advisors, when we just limit the conversation to just course registration, what are you going to be taking from semester to semester,
Mhm.
there's a missed opportunity for more connection to happen. And
Mhm.
so some things that typically is quite normal to bring up to an advisor is, in addition to your academics, what are some of the challenges that's
Mhm.
going on?
Mhm.
Everyone comes here to get a degree, but no one does it. No one's path is always straight and narrow while doing that, meaning that there's challenges that happens, whether it's mental challenges, medical challenges, personal challenges. And so speaking to your advisor about that is helpful because that advisor, being that bridge,
Mhm.
can share with you, okay, if this is going on, this is a resource that you have on campus that can help
Mhm.
you to work through that.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes advising could also be mentoring, especially those who are very fortunate to have a faculty advisor.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, the faculty advisors, they either work in the field already or have worked in the field. And ultimately, since all students are here to not only get a degree, but to gain skills that would make them employable.
Mhm.
And so sometimes having conversations with the faculty advisor or any advisor about some of your career interests, that's an opportunity that you can have. And so I would encourage students to not just limit your conversations to course registration. That is
Mhm.
important, yes, but also expand the conversation a little
Yeah.
bit more
Yes.
because there's a lot. If all you've been able to walk away from is just knowing and understanding what to take from semester to semester,
Mhm.
you're robbing yourself of the opportunity to really maximize what you have here at UMBC. And it may not be a known thing. It may not be a known thing because I understand that not every student is coming in with the same type of knowledge. Like
Mhm.
me, if you are coming in as first generation, you may not be thinking that this is something that your advisor can help you with.
Mhm.
But yeah, so expanding the conversation beyond course selection is definitely encouraged. And
I love that.
look to your advisor as you're a co-pilot. That's how I think of myself.
Yeah.
Whatever vehicle you like to drive, whether it's a car, a plane, but you ultimately are the driver of that vehicle, and
Mhm.
your advisor is your co-pilot.
I love that. I
Mhm.
really do. And you know what? You illuminated something for me too. Sometimes, and I forget about that,
Mhm.
that sometimes your advisor is, a faculty member.
Mhm.
And in that transition, right, between undergrad and then postgraduate life,
Mhm.
like students are always saying, I need a recommendation
Mhm.
and who and how,
Yep.
right? But if you build that rapport over time,
Exactly.
it then makes it one, easier for you to
Yes.
ask,
Mhm.
and two, for the professor to actually be able to say something that's honest and true.
Mhm.
um, and then two, like some of them, especially in like different departments, the professors are doing active research. So now
Yes.
you're looking for a research opportunity
Mhm.
over the summer. And if you have built a rapport with someone, I
Mhm.
think that, and this is something that I have personally struggled with, and I've shared it, that
Mhm.
sometimes I feel small, right?
Mm.
And I want to advocate for students who maybe sometimes feel like that they
Mhm.
are small in comparison to their professors.
Mhm.
But if you're talking to somebody and you're building a relationship with them,
Yes.
they may get to like you.
Yes.
They may think that you're bright. They may think that
Mhm.
you have a spark, or they may see themselves in you,
Mhm.
and that could translate into opportunities.
Yes, it
Maybe,
really could.
yeah, and not even just here at the university, but like say for example, if one of their colleagues,
Mhm.
and they can make a recommendation for you to say,
Yes. Yep. And that's
so
a common thing that happens. That's a common thing that happens. And so sometimes the question might be, it could seem intimidating.
mhm,
Yes. And when we're PhD'd and we
mhm.
have all our credentials here,
Yeah.
it could seem intimidating. But, one of the things that I like to share with students, and when I used to teach a UNIV course, is
Mhm.
that office hours is a
Mhm.
critical thing. And sometimes students will say, well, I'm not really sure what question to ask.
Mhm.
It could be helpful to maybe take the time to research who that individual is. Faculty
Mm.
love and they are excited to talk about their research. And
Mhm.
so if you're not really sure what question or how to, you want to establish a rapport, but not really sure where to start,
Mhm.
sometimes that can be a way to start asking
Mhm.
questions about their research. And especially if it genuinely intrigues you,
Mhm.
that can be a way to kind of create an in into establishing that relationship and rapport. But yes, if it's a professional advisors, most advisors, they have their biography on their
Mhm.
website. And
Mhm.
so I enjoy talking to students about my hobbies, those who read my biography and see what my hobbies are, see if how we share similar cultural
Mhm.
um, background. And so
Mhm.
that's what kind of helps to humanize the professional and not really make them seem like they're whether I don't know how students may view us, but
Mhm.
it just shows that we're one and the same. We share a lot more similarities than differences.
Yeah, you know what? And that is a transferable skill.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say that because in a previous episode to this, we had a recruiter, and she said something very similar about how when you go into an interview,
Mm-hmm.
to also research the person who's interviewing you,
Mm-hmm.
so that maybe you can switch the interview
Mm-hmm.
from this transactional experience to a
Exactly.
conversation and a dialogue. So you
Mm-hmm.
can use that in a lot of contexts.
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to represent now for some of our students who are a little bit in the earlier portion of their like collegiate career.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I am a first semester freshman.
Mm.
Um, Tell me, are there some particular habits or some particular things that I should do, kind of like in those early stages of my very first semester, that can like set me up?
So a couple of things come to mind. So at UMBC, we have Involvement Fest,
Okay.
which is at the very beginning of the
Mm-hmm.
semester. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I love informing students about the social things as well as the academic things. So,
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I'm starting off with talking a little bit about the social things is because that helps students to strike a good balance.
Mm-hmm.
And those social outlets that you can create for yourself would can serve as a really great release
Okay.
if and when necessary, especially during those crazy times during the semester for
Mm-hmm.
students. And I shouldn't say crazy times, but very busy times when
Yeah.
midterms and there's a lot happening one after the other. And so by becoming involved, but you also want to be careful about not becoming over involved either, because joining too many organizations could also be a tricky thing to navigate. But I would say
Mm-hmm.
finding a social outlet, it'll definitely help this institution to slowly begin to feel like home. But certainly on the academic side of things, finding a time management strategy that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
When I,
Now break that down for me.
yes,
Okay, because time management is a thing.
it is a thing.
And so if you were to say finding a time management strategy that works
Mm,
for you,
mm-hmm,
how would someone go about if they are not
mm-hmm,
that, type A organized
right.
person? Where
Mm-hmm.
do we go? Like, do I go to YouTube? Do I go, like, where do I go?
Right. So it's interesting that you say YouTube. So yep, YouTube could be a place, but there are some other practical things that students could do. I know when I was an undergrad, having a planner was a
Okay.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think they do sell planners where
Mm-hmm.
you could write down what's coming up, and so that way you can kind of see it and know that it's there. The tricky
Mm-hmm.
thing about a planner is if you're not as disciplined about opening the planner every day, it's
Okay.
not just enough to just write it down. And so that may be a strategy that would work for some, it may not work for others.
Mm-hmm.
So if that means getting a calendar, creating something that's more visual,
Mm-hmm.
if you know that there's a certain place if you're in the residence hall or if you're at home, that you spend a lot of time positioning this calendar there that has your important things for the semester there where you can see it, because some of us are that way. It has to be in front of us every day. Something that I also introduced to my UNIV class
Mm-hmm.
the last time I taught was talking about Google Task Lists.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I talk about Google Task Lists is because even if you use a planner, even if you use a calendar, what happens if you're across campus and you're like, I have something to do, but I cannot remember what it
Mm-hmm.
is. And so Google Task List, that will be something I would say that's worthwhile spending some time looking at YouTube and seeing how some people use that. But since all of us, making an assumption here maybe, but since a lot of us have our phones with us all
Mm-hmm.
the time, Google Task List makes your calendar accessible and it moves with you wherever you go.
Ah.
And so those are just, certainly those strategies are,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just limited to that, but
Yeah.
that's what I mean about finding a time management strategy that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And also trying to figure out what type of learner are you.
Mm.
Spending some time thinking about what type of learner are you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you visual? Are you more of a tactile type learner? So
Mm-hmm.
researching that, and for those who are fortunate to take the UNIV courses, you
Mm-hmm.
do get the chance to explore some of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that is something that's worth looking up, because by knowing what type of learner you are,
Mm-hmm.
that really helps you with your information processing
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And so yeah, so social outlet, figuring out a time management strategy, figuring out how best you learn,
Yeah.
and then getting connected with your academic advisor.
Yes.
Um, so so there's a lot that the going back to what we were talking about earlier, there's a lot that your advisor can definitely help you with figuring out. And so the way that most students could easily find their advisor is in their MyUMBC profile. If they go into their profile, they'll be able to see who they're assigned to.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can start there. And so I just named those three things, but there's certainly more
Mm-hmm.
that your advisor can help you to create a more personalized, customized plan for.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking too, when you were talking about what kind of learner are you,
Mm-hmm.
a light bulb went off for me. I remember years ago when I was a academic advisor, I was an advisor for the first year experience program. So
Mm-hmm.
that's like, that student who's earlier in their, collegiate journey,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I often would hear folks come in and they would be having these like challenges, especially if they were coming from like a traditional setting, like so from high school
Mhm.
right to college.
Mhm.
And they were just like, I don't understand, what's going on, my professor. And one of the things that I had to, and there was like this article that I used to give students,
Mhm.
and it was talking about how up until they graduated from high school, that their teachers or their educators were trained in teaching
Mhm.
and they were experts in teaching,
Mhm.
even though they had a specialty area maybe,
Mhm.
but they also were trained in teaching.
Right.
But now at the university level,
Mhm.
now you have experts in their discipline.
Right.
You may have some excellent teachers,
Mhm.
but you may just have the best biologist
Mhm.
that there is,
Yes.
And so there's this kind of you have to take more ownership
Mhm.
of your learning
Yes.
experience when you
Mhm.
get to college, because it's like, okay, this person is an expert biologist,
Mhm.
and anything I want to know about biology, I probably can get from this person.
Exactly.
But they may not say it to me in a way that is like going to sit well with, they're not going to be looking out, even the class sizes. They may
Mhm.
not be looking out to say, okay, this person is a visual learner and
Mhm.
this person learns by
Mhm.
tactile, right?
Mhm.
And so they may not even structure their class that way.
Right.
And so you knowing your learning style,
Mhm.
that helps you to have that like next level of command to say, okay, now if we do a lab, I
Mhm.
learned through experimentation.
Yes.
So I need to really be involved in this if I want to
Mhm.
get a good grade,
Exactly.
So that was a light bulb moment for me.
Mhm.
Okay. Now on the flip side, I asked you, are there things that you can do to set yourself up for success?
Mhm.
My next question is, are there things that you find that students do or have experienced that are
Mhm.
like pitfalls, like 3 pitfalls that folks maybe find themselves in?
Mm. Um, yes, and unintentionally,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I know that for some students, working is not an option, they have to.
Okay.
And so, what can be a pitfall sometimes is not knowing the proper balance between
Mm.
work and school.
Mm-hmm.
And so, many a times, I would come across a student who would say, my goal is to graduate within 4 years, but I do have to work. They're either a caregiver or
Mm-hmm.
they help to contribute to their household.
Mm-hmm.
And so that may involve working a job where it's about 30 hours a week. And so, sometimes that can be difficult to balance when you're enrolled full time. And so, for some students, they might have been used to doing it at other institutions,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're coming from an institution, let's say, where the structure was a little bit different from UMBC, and you
Mm-hmm.
come here and there's a culture shock
Mm-hmm.
where you see that you're not able to do that. So, typically, the rule of thumb is if you're looking to enroll full time, and that is 12 credit hours or more,
Mm-hmm.
having a job where it's no more than 20 hours a week.
Okay.
And if work is a necessity, because life certainly doesn't stop just because you're enrolled,
Mm-hmm.
if it's a necessity, consider reducing your course load where it does make sense. And
Mm-hmm.
that may not be the most ideal for some students because they want to graduate
Mm-hmm.
as quickly as possible. But students, there is information that shows that students do perform better when you're taking a manageable course load because you're not stretching yourself. You're
Mm-hmm.
not stretching yourself. An exercise that would be a really good one to do is getting a weekly grid, looking at Monday through Friday and mapping out the hours of the week and really seeing where are you spending most of your time.
Mm-hmm.
And some students who I've walked through that exercise, that helps them to realize, whoa, I'm overcommitted. I'm overcommitted here
Mm-hmm.
on a weekly basis. Another pitfall could be not seeking assistance as early as you need to.
Mm-hmm.
So that first exam
Mm-hmm.
happened,
Oh.
right? Whatever that exam was. I don't want to name a class, but think
Mm-hmm.
about that first exam that happens, and you knew that you studied. You knew that you studied for the test, and the grade that you get back is not indicative of how much time you put into studying. And you get the first grade back, and the only thing that you think is, oh, well, I'll do better next time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pitfall because what happens, exam one is testing you on content that's going to build for exam
Yeah.
two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exam two is going to build on the content for exam three. And so when students may think to seek out assistance is maybe at midterm or a little bit past midterm.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that it's impossible to change grades, but it's impossible to get that A if you're a couple of grades away
I got
from
you.
there. And so an advice to address that pitfall is that would be time to really do some early troubleshooting, early intervention.
Mm-hmm.
So if that means getting questions clarified, if you might have thought based on how this exam was written, you understood it this way, get clarification
Mm-hmm.
on that so that way you don't make that same mistake exam two, or seek out the necessary tutoring as early as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because when the content builds, and what I share with students is as the content builds, and let's say we get into week 10,
Mm.
you're now going to tutoring to have 10 weeks of content simplified. And if you would have thought to have gone early, you
Mm-hmm.
would have had things simplified along the way. And
Mm-hmm.
so that can be a pitfall, but unintentional because, at heart, the student is really going to try to do their best the next time. But how do you know how to course correct if you're not really sure what went wrong or if there's additional support that you might need?
Yes. And listen, I am encouraging students right there
Mhm.
because I know that some folks, and not just, people like to say, oh, Gen Z, but not
Mhm.
even that, just personality types. Sometimes when facing a challenge,
Mhm.
taking that next step to speak up and to advocate for
Right.
yourself, it's challenging
Mhm.
because it makes you have to, one,
Mhm.
acknowledge, a mistake, or,
Right.
or what have you, like in a way that maybe you might feel like, are they going to judge me? Or
Mhm.
just the hurdle of actually saying something
Mhm.
to someone.
Yes.
Like, I'm 18 and, or whatever the case may be, or I got this horrible grade and now,
Yes.
I'm going to go and talk to the
Mhm.
GA about this,
Mhm. And what could
Um,
be a really good reframe whenever I do hear students saying that is
mhm,
whenever you do show the that you are invested by going to the GA or going to office hours to get clarification, it really does communicates that I am committed to learning this content.
mhm,
And by showing that you have that level of commitment really helps your GA or professor to really meet you where you are.
mhm,
And so don't think of it as a weakness that you don't know this
mhm,
information and that they're expecting you to know it. I've heard faculty members to say they could appreciate when
mhm.
students ask questions
Yeah.
because they're really showing that they are invested. So that could be a reframe for some students.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Okay. So, and you put it so eloquently, right? You, like, it was like almost like if I didn't have a conversation with you prior to this, I might have missed it. But you were saying that you are first generation American,
Hmm.
and how certain, this is the way you said it, certain majors, certain
Yes.
career paths,
Right.
right, are preferred.
Hmm.
And how you had to kind of make some shifts and transitions, and you said
Hmm.
it so eloquently. And I'm hearing is, I remember I had a friend of mine who came to school, and I think she started out as a business management major,
Hmm.
but she really loved fashion.
Mm.
And her parents were like, look,
Hmm.
you try to change your major to fashion, and it's going to be a problem at the dinner table.
Hmm.
And so I say that to say, this friend was savvy
Hmm.
in that she remained as a business administration major, but then she
Hmm.
minored in fashion merchandising,
Hmm.
and is now like a fashion blogger and in New York living her best life, and,
Mm.
on the glow up and everything, right?
Mhm.
But I'm bringing up this story in this narrative because there may come a time, whether it be that you are starting to learn who you are for yourself
Mm-hmm.
as you come to college, or it could be another thing. It could be that you thought that you wanted to be a doctor, you thought you wanted to be an engineer. And as you get into that coursework,
Mm-hmm.
it might be that, you know what, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if this is for me for one reason or another. I don't know. And so then now you're starting to kind of like explore, even though you thought you had all in the bag, right? You
Right.
thought that you had it all under wraps, or you
Mm-hmm.
had it, in control. So I want to know from your perspective, if I was that student, right? And I'm now exploring. I thought I had it together,
Right.
but my having it together is unraveling.
Right.
Are there things that I can do
Mm-hmm.
to kind of like still honor where I am in case that's what I want to stay, but
Mm-hmm.
like kind of explore? Like, what are some things that I could do if I was that student?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things, and I'm glad that I think this is a great question
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes students could feel stuck. I've already invested X amount of time into these courses, and I have no choice but to continue. And so, the good thing about academic disciplines, there's also a parallel pathway or a parallel plan
Mm-hmm.
that could be pursued. And so what I mean by parallel plan or like a parallel pathway, it's not going to be the same major, but where might the content be similar?
Mm-hmm.
Where might the curriculum be similar, where
Mm-hmm.
you can find some alignment? So that way, if you are looking at changing majors, you're not looking at it from a deficit lens, thinking that everything that I have taken, I'm going to have to basically be first semester all over again. In some disciplines, yes. To just be honest, because some disciplines it's just really hard to find parallel overlap.
Mm-hmm.
So something from like the business sector to like the science
Mm-hmm.
sector. So,
Mm-hmm.
but typically, someone if you have an interest in science and you may want to pivot from another science to another one, oftentimes you can find some overlap.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say spending some time thinking about what has that discipline taught you, the amount of
Mm-hmm.
time that you spent within that major. Did you learn something about yourself? You obviously learned something that made you realize this is no longer the pathway for me.
Mm-hmm.
But did you learn what can be a pathway for you?
Mm-hmm.
And so honoring the coursework in that way. There's also tools that students have at their disposal. There's a go to tool for me and a lot of advisors called the What If Degree Audit.
Mm-hmm.
And so that allows for you to generate a degree audit for a potential major that you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking about
Mm-hmm.
changing to. And then it will show you if there's any courses that overlap and that's applicable to this program
Mm-hmm.
that it would fit into that.
And where can they find that what if degree audit? Where can they
Yeah.
find that?
So that can be found in students' profiles. So
Mm-hmm.
you log into the MyUMBC,
Mm-hmm.
you go into your profile, and then there's a tab there where you can the same place where you would go to view most of your academic stuff, GPA, current standing, you'll see the option. It's called What If Degree Audit.
Mm-hmm.
And so you generate that, and then that allows for you to see if I'm changing from psychology to sociology.
Mm-hmm.
What are the courses that I've already taken that will apply towards that program?
Gotcha.
And so for some students, it takes the fear out of changing a major because it takes what may be hypothetical or abstract and showing you realistically, this is actually what I can do, and it may not buy me a lot of time as I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so that is definitely a strategic way to go about doing it.
Mm-hmm.
For some students too, it's spending some time. One of the resources that I really do love
Mm-hmm.
that, and it's so interesting that, interviewing with the Career Center,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a really great resource on the Career Center's website
Okay.
called What Can I Do with My Major?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And so, for someone who may be initially on that pre med path and they may like biology, but may not necessarily want to pursue pre med, but if pre med is all they've ever been thinking about. This, what can I do with my major tool? It would list several different careers that students can pursue.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I love about it, it breaks down the different career clusters. So if it's business, if it's government, if it's healthcare. And so whenever I introduce that tool to students in my office, a light bulb goes off because
Mm-hmm.
they're just like, oh, it's not just pre-med or teaching,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think the teaching profession, it's a great one, but sometimes students would limit their thinking to certain careers. If they can't pursue their primary career,
Mm-hmm.
then the alternate might be, you know, going into something else. And so, so looking at this tool really does provide students with a listing of the different job titles that they
Mm-hmm.
can research. Can lead you to a really interesting Google search to figure out what does this profession entail?
Mm-hmm.
So there's different ways to pivot.
Okay.
Sometimes it's not pivoting away from the degree necessarily, but maybe it's pivoting from the career pathway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or if it is pivoting from the degree, it's looking and seeing how might your academic history that you've already committed time to,
Mm-hmm.
how can that apply to another discipline?
Mm. Let me tell you,
Mm-hmm.
I got to put my cue cards down for this one. And I say that because throughout the course of this episode, we're just going to go ahead and let the cat right out the bag.
Okay.
You have just come on, cat. Woo, just jumped right, except ours is a dog.
Okay.
It's a retriever.
Right.
We're going to let the retriever out the bag.
Right.
Throughout the course of this time together, your
Mhm.
expertise has just been like, and so two things that I'm gonna let you get out of here because we held the people a little long. But one thing you were just talking about, you know, how if the student wants to transition and change their major and how they can frame it in their mind, how they can structure it, where they can go. But sometimes changing your major is not your choice
Mhm.
and it can feel like a failure.
Mhm.
And I just want you to take a minute, you know, as yourself, the expert, but also as Dr. Ransom,
Mhm.
formerly known as Monique,
Right.
right? Like, if you are that student and it's like, I have been building my entire college career
Mhm.
believing that I was going to come out of here with a bachelor's degree in computer science.
Mhm.
And because of one reason or another, and sometimes it's like a class, you know, and that
Mhm.
we have those at every university, that class.
Mhm.
And it's like it maybe almost feels like you lose your identity a little bit, you know?
Mhm.
And it's like I've done well in all these other courses, but because of this, right?
Right.
How would you encourage them, and how should that person encourage themselves that if they
Mhm.
have to make a pivot,
Right.
that upon like completion, that it's not like I
A
didn't do the
constellation
thing.
prize, and not a constellation prize.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that can be a very nuanced conversation, but
Okay.
sometimes it's getting to the root of understanding, why did the student select that major?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a particular skill set that you're interested in?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not some majors, yes, it is specialized, but oftentimes if it's a particular skill set, if you want to
Mm-hmm.
work with technology,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what is it in technology that you want to work with?
Mm-hmm.
And helping probing and asking those kind of probing questions, helping students to see if you're interested in being X because it allows for you to do this kind of profession,
Mm-hmm.
or it helps to expand upon your skill set, what other majors might allow for you to explore that skill set?
Mm-hmm.
So helping students to see that kind of, how should I frame it? There's not one way to go
Mm-hmm.
about earning this particular skill set. And for some students, when they really do begin to explore, they realize that they might have been pursuing a pre-med pathway when public health might have really been their passion,
Mm-hmm.
because what might have drawn them to that area of medicine is caring for people. A lot of students would say that I want to go into something where I can help people.
Mm-hmm.
okay, that is a skill set. In what way do you see yourself helping people?
Mm-hmm.
And so it allows for them to see if it's helping people who are ill. Well, there's different ways that you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways that you can do that from a policy standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways that you can do that by serving in the community in some kind of way. And it allows for students to still hold on to that identity of wanting to help people, but just helping them to see that there's different ways to do that and to explore that skill set.
You did not disappoint. I don't, you through the whole episode, you did not disappoint. And I just want to break this down too. I heard this, what you were saying, and I want to say it in layman's terms because you are a doctor.
Break it down.
But like what I really heard you saying was two things. But one of the things, the first thing is that if there's a particular skill set that you are interested in expanding and growing and training, and so that's why you selected that major, that just because the degree, the name on your diploma changes, it doesn't mean that you can't grow that skill set.
Exactly.
And even if, let's say, for example, we're talking about computer science, right? Like there's a tandem, it's a often change, right, from computer science to information systems. But even if you change completely, you still have the coursework, and then you can do extracurricular things. And that's where the Career Center comes in, where it's like internships and certificates and, training yourself through whatever it is, practicing these skills so that upon graduation, even though the name on the diploma or the degree type on the diploma has shifted, that you still have that ability and that skill set.
Yeah.
So I love that, and so maybe the consolation prize of having the, bachelor's degree in computer science, but really, and this is what we like to say on the podcast, Seiji, but in 20 years, right? Your experience and what you have done to build yourself will be far more valuable than those words typed on a sheet of paper.
Exactly.
And so I really love that you said that, and so you said something else too, but that really was what stuck out to me. It was like that just because of that transition, it doesn't mean that the door to whatever career path that you want is closed.
And I'm sure that's where you all come in, right? Helping students with knowing how to articulate that skill set in a job setting. There's going to be more that you have to say about yourself at the job interview other than I've gotten a degree in X. And so articulate that in a way that shows that you've been able to build not just this skill set, but the skill set that would help whatever organization, company that they're looking to hire. And so I would say the identity to the major, though we could understand that, but really build your identity or your brand around what is your skill set, what do you want to specialize in.
I love that. I love that. And I want to thank you so much. I feel like I went to school while we were here. I was like trying to ask you questions and you were like, and I'm going to give you the answer and then some.
Yes.
So I really do thank you. And I really want to just kind of cap out and close out this episode just to encourage, right, no matter where you are in your career, collegiate career, right? And I know a lot of times students and maybe you are feeling like that school and work, those two things are very separate. But I do, like I said at the opening of the episode, I see it as a runway and they are connected, right? And then sometimes, even though on an airplane, the runway is straight.
Yes.
In this case, there may be some twists and turns and bumps along the way. But I think that a student who advocates for themselves and who is committed to, always showing up and doing their very best is also going to be that same way in the workplace. And whether it's at the academic advising office or at the Career Center, that there's a team of folks who are here to support you and being that co-pilot, right, to get you the ultimate success that you desire. And so we always link resources in the show notes. And I think one of the ones that we're going to link today will definitely be the what can I do with this major?
Absolutely.
And as we think of some more, there'll probably be some more goodies down there. But whether you're early in your career, your collegiate career journey, or you're thinking about transitioning, I would check those show notes if you're looking for some resources to kind of help you make the next step wisely. So we thank you so much for hanging out with us again, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.